14 of the coolest PlayStation games that you should play right now. Let's kick things off with one of the best games released in a very long time, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The first game absolutely slapped. I used to play this back in the day on my PC, but now we've got the sequel, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It takes everything to the next level, and you can even play it on the PS5 Pro with enhanced graphics. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is absolutely insane. Not only does it have huge graphical improvements, animations, and overall gameplay mechanics, but also the complexity of the AI and the interactions you have with those AIs has vastly been revolutionized. From the off, you can choose your playstyle. You're given the ultimatum to answer a question, which will then determine the character traits that you have that you can then build out from there in a typical RPG fashion. There's new ways to persuade and talk to different characters in the game, and even you'll be judged by the AI on how you're dressed will also determine how successful you are with certain interactions. It's super clever. This has been my first time playing this franchise on a console. I booted it up on my PS5 Pro, and to my surprise, it actually works really well. I love the medieval setting, also the detail on the maps. The devs smashed it out the park with this on the last game as well. And there's just something about it that's super immersive. It just, when you play like a AAA franchise, there's something about the characters and everything that just lack relatability, whereas this feels real. There's no nonsense in it. It feels good. This game is so good that the sales have been through the roof. It topped over 1 million sales in the first 24 hours, according to some reports. And the reviews on Steam as well, like 14,000 reviews, and it's basically 5 stars across the board. Next up, we've got Arma Reforger, another iconic franchise from the PC, available on the console. Arma Reforger is set in the 1980s Cold War theme. It's a military simulator with a huge online multiplayer. The map is vast and huge, it's open world, and you can do whatever you like in it. One of the best parts about Arma is the unpredictability. It's basically whatever the people want to do in the game. You bump into enemies, you bump into friendlies, people in your squad, there's in-game chat in there, and just random stuff happens. I used to play Arma 3 quite a lot, and also the DayZ mods on the PC back in the day, and I forgot actually how nice people were. We were playing Arma in here. I hadn't played it in ages. Forgot all the controls, forgot absolutely everything. Hadn't even played it on a controller before. And people in the in-game comms were super duper helpful. Just hopped in a car, we drove around, we chopped in some helicopters, we communicated over the in-game chat. The cool thing about the PS5 is there's a built-in microphone in the controller, so you can just communicate straight away without even plugging a headset in. One of my favorite things about Arma Reforger are the upgraded graphics. Takes everything to a whole new level. There's a new in-game engine, so performance is pretty good. I've been playing it on the PS5 Pro. The only time I've noticed some performance issues is when you load into the map for about, maybe a minute. It might be like at 16 FPS. And then it levels off and pulls about 55, 60 FPS. There is actually an FPS counter in the top corner of the gameplay that you can see and monitor in real time. This is a much more serious FPS shooter compared to something like Call of Duty and even Battlefield. And it has a large learning curve to understand the way the different weapons operate with the recoil patterns and also the tactics and communication that's required. It's very team-based focus. You got to communicate, you got to assault the base correctly, otherwise you have literally no chance at surviving. But the best part is the time to kill is super quick, so it's dead realistic. It's like pa, enemies down. Also, that does make it really hard because you can get wiped out in the blink of an eye. Definitely worth a download. It's around $30, $40, pretty cheap on the PlayStation Store compared to some of the AAA titles that you can purchase, and you could rack up thousands and thousands of hours on a title like this. Now, my next recommendation is going to be super unpopular, and it's Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. I actually think this is a pretty good racing game, and that's for one aspect only, and it's the detail in the vehicles. Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown is set in Hong Kong, and it's a 1-to-1 scale recreation of the open world, which is absolutely insane. It feels great. But the best part is the details on the cars. If you know anything about supercars, you will know that things like Forza, they don't nail the engine sound. So the way the car idles, they just use like a generic V12, V8 or whatever engine. It's just generic. Whereas this is like car specific. So a Lamborghini Huracan sounds like a Lamborghini Huracan. And when you're sat idle, parked still, you can hear the way that engine would genuinely sound in real life. And then when you set off and everything, it's the same. Even the details on the interiors of the supercars is perfect. They're like forged carbon fiber. The details on the Performante edition of like the Huracan in particular matches it. And I've seen all these cars in real life at dealerships, all sorts of different things when I went and looked them myself. And I've also experienced and driven quite a few of these vehicles in my time. So this is definitely an aspect of Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown that I think is completely overlooked when people hammer it, saying this is the crap, this is whatever. It actually does a really good job of the accuracy of the cars. I even noticed when I was driving some of the supercars in this game, the turning circle was also like a real life supercar. Real life supercar, when you try and turn that thing around, it's terrible. At slow speed, you've got to do like a 1,000,000-point turn to get out of a car park. Same thing on Test Drive Solar Crown. I noticed when we were turning, the same lock was the same as a genuine supercar, and you would have to do the same maneuvers at low speeds, whereas in Forza, you just can whack it round in like one spin, which you just can't do in a real life supercar. There's so many other things you can also do in Test Drive Unlimited Solo Car, and it takes a lot of the best features from Test Drive Unlimited 2, which was probably one of the best racing games ever made on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Things like it's got like casinos, fashion shops, you can pimp out your own apartment. Test Drive Unlimited 2 was basically GTA 5 Online before GTA 5 Online, and actually some of the developers that work at Forza Horizon were from that original team on Test Drive Unlimited 2. But that's a different story. Forza Horizon just didn't quite hit the heights of Test Drive, let's be real here. But Solo Crown definitely isn't as good as Test Drive Unlimited 2. It's okay, does the job, you just gotta accept for what it is. But I don't think it deserves like 2 stars on the PlayStation Store, which is what it currently has last time I checked. Seems a little bit harsh. One game that I do think is overrated is Black Myth Wukong. This was one of the best-selling games of last year. Everyone went crazy over it, and I played it at CES for like the first time ever. It was on loads of booths when we were demoing the different monitors, and I thought, this is quite a good little game, actually. I was like, I get the hype. Came home, installed it on my PS5 Pro, and I was bored within the first hour. It was pretty awful. But that's just me, and a lot of people think this game's great. It's got great storyline, it's got some awesome gameplay mechanics in terms of the different boss fights, but for me, it's the rolling round. I hate games where it's like / roll, / roll. That's why I usually get bored of God of War as well. Love God of War, insane storyline, but I usually get 50% of the way through and I can't be rolling around the map anymore. I'm completely rolled out. I'm exhausted by it. Anyways, Black Myth Wukong. It is a good game. I'm not saying it isn't a good game, but it's for an acquired taste. The graphics look fantastic. Obviously, it's PS5 Pro enhanced. And probably one of my favorite things about this game is the setting. It's an action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology, and the map, the settings, and all of the different characters and the art style is stunning. The story is based on Journey from the West, one of the 4 great classical novels of Chinese literature. And this is what makes this game so good. It's the storyline and all of the influence it's taken from that. You set out as the destined one to venture into the challenges and marvels ahead, and you uncover obscure truths. As you progress through the storyline in this game, you will experience so many different environments, and also challenges and different styles of action encounters. And it is quite similar to a Dark Souls style game. And I think that's why I didn't like it at first, and why I was like, oh, come on, this ain't it. But once you settle in and you get over the fact that it's got Dark Souls vibes, and you may not particularly like Dark Souls vibes, because not everybody does, even though people will be hating me in the comments right now saying I'm talking rubbish. But once you eventually adapt that style of gameplay, you do actually start to quite like this game, because you more get invested in the storyline and all the Chinese culture and everything that it has going on in it. If it wasn't for that makes it so strong, I don't know whether it would have been as good as it actually is. Back on to something a little bit more lighthearted and less intense on the storyline. Taxi Life, a city driving simulator. Hear me out. This game you can pick up for about $16, $18. I got it for, and it is the game of the year.
And the game of the year is
Taxi Life.
Taxi Life Simulator is a little bit of a wild one. You literally do what it says. You drive around in a taxi, pick people up, drop them off, get paid for your job, upgrade your car, get different vehicles, build out a fleet of taxi drivers and a whole business. It's basically like Grand Theft Auto when you steal a taxi and you do those mini games where you drop off the NPCs. Probably one of the best mini games in Grand Theft Auto, if we're really honest. But you could do this without breaking the law by legitimately owning the taxi that you drive and look after it and keep it clean with the ultimate utmost pride. You can also hook up a steering wheel in this game to take it to the next level. It's based in Barcelona, and surprisingly, it's got really good NPCs in terms of the AI and the traffic. Very good how it stops, creates traffic jams. They stop at the different lights, let pedestrians walk through. It's really frustrating. You can be doing a job and just sat in traffic like, come on, move, mate, move. Very immersive. For one of those quick games that you can just kill some time while you're waiting for your mates to hop online and it's nothing too serious, it's definitely worth playing. And it is. No, it isn't PS5 Pro enhanced. That's a lie. It's just PS5 enhanced. It's that good. It doesn't need a performance patch. A game that really surprised me was Gran Turismo First. This is completely free, and it is essentially, it's kind of like Gran Turismo Prologue. Back in the day, if you had a PS3, you'll know what I'm on about. Gran Turismo 5 Prologue came out kind of at the launch of the PS3 because Gran Turismo 5 wasn't ready. And then Gran Turismo 5 took so long to get finished that everyone played the Prologue so much that Gran Turismo 5 was basically out of date. It was like an ancient style racing game when it finally dropped, so no one really played it. And then they soon after dropped Gran Turismo Turismo 6. Like, it was like pretty quick. But anyways, Gran Turismo First is kind of like Prologue, but it's free. It's completely free on the PS5, PS5 Pro Enhanced, even though nobody bought that console. I bought the new PlayStation 5 Pro. But I'm still gonna tell you anyways, for the tiny percentile that actually have one. In my first Gran Turismo, this includes 18 cars and 3 tracks. Trial Mountain, Deep Forest Raceway, and Kyoto Driving Park. Is that how you say it? I swear I just murdered that. Tell me in the comments. The game offers a friendly beginner introduction to the Gran Turismo series with various events, including time trials and licenses that you can complete. And all of your progression will transfer straight over into Gran Turismo 7. The car list is actually not too bad. You start off with this weird Jeep thing that you think that looks really slow, but for some reason in Gear 4 it can absolutely pump out like 160 miles per hour. It's rapid, mate, absolutely rapid. And then you can progress to iconic things like an Audi TT, Mini Cooper, all the way up to a Ferrari, and also a Lamborghini Countach. Countach. I think I just murdered that. Including a Ferrari and all the way up to a Lamborghini Countach. No, how the hell do I say that? I know what car it is. Countach. Lamborghini. Just a Lamborghini, mate. You get a Lamborghini and it's an old one. There is steering wheel support on my first Gran Turismo, and they also have the music rallies, like in Gran Turismo 7, which I actually found quite fun. There were little like fun mini games where you would have music that would sort of speed up while you drove the car. It was a fun little challenge mode. I'm not gonna lie, I think my first Gran Turismo is so good that you probably don't actually need to buy Gran Turismo 7. Like, you probably would have had enough of Gran Turismo by the time you complete my first Gran Turismo. There's loads of cars, there's the best sort of few tracks you might want to play that are short and sweet. I think most people would probably be happy with that, just a quick little racer that's free. If you want to take things a little bit slower and you don't want to do some racing, Farming Simulator 2025 is perfect for you. Now hear me out, everybody questions my judgment when I say Farming Simulator is a good game, but it genuinely is. I used to play this back in the day on my PC. Had nothing better to do clearly when I was a kid, but it wasn't until it was on Xbox Game Pass. When it was on Xbox Game Pass, everybody could install it risk-free without having to buy it, and then suddenly it became a huge phenomenon. Even outsold Cyberpunk and Battlefield 2077 back in 2021. But now we've got the latest release, which is Farming Simulator 2025, and seriously, when you hop on this with some mates, it is absolutely hilarious. You could start off with a tiny little farm, you build it out, you build up all of your revenue and your resources, you expand and purchase different fields in different areas of the map. There's 5 different maps, I'm pretty sure, off the top of my head, that allow you to explore different styles of areas. So if you get bored, you can go into a completely different environment and try that out as well, starting again. But compared to previous games, there is a much easier leveling up system. So you can start off, you can always sort of choose how much resources the farm has, but they've definitely made this easier in this one. You can literally start off with like £1 million and also a £1 million loan as well. So you have like 2 million in the bank, kick things off. Also start with a more developed farm. You can choose how developed the farm is to spawn in on, with the amount of machinery it's going to have, the amount of fields it's going to have straight off the bat. So it makes it a little bit more casual, which is perfect if you just want to mess about. My favorite thing about Farming Simulator is all of the different types of machinery that it has. And every single year they introduce new types of machinery, which then also unlocks essentially new types of gameplay mechanics and also mini games that you can do. Like way back in the day when I used to play it, they introduced like the wood cutting stuff, and then you could obviously do all the deforestations and things like that. Always keeping it exciting with new ways to farm. The graphics are also insane on 2025. Looks fantastic. I think it's even got ray tracing, mate. And probably the coolest thing is the character customization. You've always been able to customize your character for a while in the last few games, but now it's got like a third-person camera for your character, and the animations are insane. The way that your character bops around the fields. Like, it's just way too detailed for Farming Simulator. And also the amount of clothes you can choose for your character is crazy. You've got more options than The Sims. You can spend hours on this screen customizing your little dude. Now, a game that I'm gonna put on this list, but I was too afraid to play, was Silent Hills 2. Now, I'm no stranger to a horror game. I used to play The Outlast, and I even played PT back on my PS4 as a kid, which was like that trailer or the game trial to what was going to be the Silent Hills back then that got cancelled. But I was younger then and much braver than I am today, and I just didn't really fancy being scared by Silent Hills 2. It was just, I couldn't handle the mental disturb that it could prevail upon me. So I'm just gonna talk over the trailer and act like I've played it and say it's absolutely fantastic. In this game, you play as James Sunderland, who ventures into the eerie town of Silent Hills after receiving a letter from his deceased wife, Mary. The remake offers modernized gameplay mechanics, enhanced graphics, and an overhauled combat system whilst preserving the psychological horror elements that defined the original game. This was a highly rated release that dropped recently on the PlayStation, and it's because it's just a good game back in the day. It isn't like a new AAA Ubisoft load of rubbish or something. It's just a banger from back in the early 2000s when gaming was peak with better graphics, so of course it's gonna be good. If it's an oldie, it's gonna be a goldie. That's what they say. Next, let's talk about some random games that are coming to the PlayStation that we never expected, which is Forza Horizon 5 and I was gonna say Lego Indiana Jones. No, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. These are two Xbox exclusives that are now making their way over to the PlayStation platform, along with other franchises to come, which will probably Gears of War and Halo, let's be honest at this point. The Forza franchise, which we never expected, will be releasing on PlayStation, and I think this is a power move by Xbox, to be honest. I might do a video about this, but I personally think that Xbox, they've won the console wars. Everyone thinks it's about hardware sales and all this type of stuff, which obviously Sony is clearing up on, but Xbox is focusing on the software. And you can play their games on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, probably the Nintendo Switch 2 at this point because they're just selling themselves everywhere. But Forza Horizon 5, probably the only good exclusive on the Xbox Series S and X, will be playable from around spring on your PlayStation 5. It's gonna probably have better graphics on the PlayStation 5 as well because of the PS5 Pro enhanced version that it might have. So this may be the ultimate place, the ultimate system to play Forza on, which I don't think Xbox ever imagined would happen. Alongside this release, around a similar timeline, will also be Indiana Jones, which was also, I think, a pretty good game that dropped on Xbox last year. It was the only pretty much good exclusive they had dropped last year, which was obviously available on Xbox Game Pass, but it's also going to be available on your PlayStation. Indiana Jones is a super cool game. It's a first-person game with some mixture of, it's like Bethesda, so it's like first-person vibes, but it's got a mixture of third-person on it as well when you do like cool rope swings, which like it switches it up quite nice actually, and it transitions pretty well, keeps it dynamic. Also, the graphics and environments in the Indiana Jones games are beautiful. You feel literally like you're in the movie. Can't really complain about those. And I'm a bit of a sucker for a single player game. Maybe it's because I don't have any friends, other than the people that I play Farming Simulator with. Another cool feature that will be on the PS5 version of both of these titles will obviously be the DualSense adaptive triggers. You're gonna get more control over your car in Forza Horizon with better trigger feedback because of the better PS5 controller. And also, Indiana Jones, when you do the cool rope swings in the lasso, you're gonna, of course, have better control and tension over that. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be class. The final single-player game that I wanna share on this list whilst we're on the topic is the Last of Us franchise, both Part 1 and Part 2. These have all been fully remastered for the PS5 generation, and with the new PS5 Pro, they perform even better. They perform as they should have really on the PS5 version, let's be honest, because the PS4 games, PS3 games, if we're honest, with the Last of Us Part 1. But they do look better than ever with the recent PS5 Pro update. Last of Us Part 2 is stunning. Still don't think it's as good as Last of Us Part 1 though, but I prefer playing as Joel. Hate me in the comments, probably already have, but I just personally prefer the storyline in Part 1. I think it's stronger. Other than the start of Part 2, it does get you going, but after that it falls off a little bit, let's be real. I'm not too sure how many times they're gonna remaster The Last of Us until we get a Part 3. I don't know, they're gonna milk it. There's gonna be a launch title for the PS5 6 at this point, but I keep putting it in these game lists because every single time we make a game list, they've released it again, and they can keep doing that because it's a great game. It's like the GTA of the PlayStation franchises. A completely underrated game that is dirt cheap on the PlayStation Store is Chivalry 2. Very similar to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it's a medieval combat game, and this thing is brutal, mate. Brutal. FPS as well. Well, is it an FPS? Because it's not a first-person shooter, is it? It's a first-person, like, first-person slasher. Anyways, Chivalry 2 set in the medieval times, and it's a massive online multiplayer game, 64 players. It's kind of like Battlefield, but with swords. And there's a whole range of different objectives. The map design's awesome. There's different stages to the maps in multiplayer. You sort of like siege the castle, then you gotta run, go over, you're in there, then you're in the actual courtyard, then that progresses into the it's genius. Keeps it really interesting and dynamic going through the missions. And also a lot of the time you can be replaying the same maps, but it feels completely different depending on which team you're on, whether you're defending the fortress or whether you're attacking it. It just completely switches up the gameplay and the approach to the gameplay massively. There's many different class systems that you can unlock as well along the way. You can be an archer, you can be a dude with a big hammer, you can just have a regular sword and shield. And also the graphics look amazing. Now I played this way back in the day on PC, but it's obviously now on PlayStation and it's PS5 Pro enhanced as well. keeping it relevant. It's something a little bit different in this multiplayer gaming genre, and it freshens things up if you're getting a little bit sick of FPS shooters, Call of Duty, sliding around the Omni movement, but you still like that competitiveness. And because of the way they structure the maps, a little bit like Battlefield with Conquest, you have to communicate on the map, on the mic to go across the map and capture the different flags. It's got a good bit of team play to it as well if you're in a squad. An upcoming game that we'll be releasing this year is going to be Ghost of Yotei. Yotei! Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima is an absolute banger. It's a great game, but Ghost of Yotei is going to be the sequel to the storyline, but it isn't what you expected. This is going to be an upcoming action-adventure game that will be serving as a standalone sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. It's set in 1603, which is a long time in the future compared to the original game, which was set in 1274 during the Mongol invasion of Japan. You'll be playing as Atsu this time, which is a female protagonist, which suggests a brand new fresh story with the same cinematic world, but could open up the opportunity for new conflicts, encounters, weapons, cultural shifts, and also gameplay approaches. I'm sure with this franchise there's going to be maybe some form of flashbacks to the first game, keep things interesting, but with it being set so far ahead compared to the first title, it does give them a little bit more freedom to take it in a different direction. Next, let's switch things up and put it on two wheels with Ride 5. I don't think motorbike games get enough credibility these days. When I was a kid on the PS2, everyone had like dirt rally motorbike games, MX something or something like that, and I had it. I played it all the time. You like do backflips, all that type of stuff. It was the stuff. It was cool. Bit of busted on like sort of McFly type music in the main menu. It was pimping. But Ride 5 reminds me of being on my Xbox 360. I used to play this game called SBSX or something like that. It's like a motorbike track racing game. Ride 5's like that, but on steroids. It's got insane graphics. This rain mode looks unbelievable when you're racing in the rain. It literally looks like real life. Also, the physics and control of the bikes, awesome, super realistic. When I was a kid, motorbike games just literally had one button for braking. So you would just brake and that would be it. Whereas realistically, a motorbike's got front and rear brake and you have to balance the two to dictate how you're stopping the bike, depending on the corner and the approach, braking in a straight line and so on. You could do this in Ride 5. I'm sure you could probably do it in Ride 4. I did have Ride 4 as well and all the other games. But Ride 5, awesome. And with the DualSense Edge controller, you have finer control over the braking because of the advanced triggers. And also the career mode and progression's quite fun in Ride 5. You kick things off in the prologue with a super fast bike that's just way too fast. You don't really enjoy it. You don't enjoy the prologue because you're whipping about and just crashing half the time. But once you get through this, you can bounce into career mode on a much smaller bike like you would have sort of in real life, like a little 125cc or something like that, and is a little bit more manageable for you to then learn how the physics operate, how to balance that braking, and get a grasp of how the bike actually maneuvers. It's a fun racing game with a degree of simulation. Now, if you want to see the best simulator games that you can play right now, you should check out this video next, because if you like this, you'll like that.